So now to show you the breakpoint debugger in the context of a more complicated program, I'm going to show you assignment 1 from last semester where I've broken a method. Now if we run a mini tester last semester, we get all of these null pointer exceptions and the test doesn't even complete. And there's null pointer exception here in equals. So our first intuition when we're testing a null pointer exception, or any kind of exception, is usually to find the line where it started, which here was this. Now we go through, it was called by the mini tester, which was called by the main method of the mini tester, that's all fine. We care about the fact that the exception was thrown here. So my first instinct is to put a breakpoint here, because we want to see what happened before this line was hit. And I'm going to put a few breakpoints around just to be sure of everything that's going on around this. And if we run with the debugger, we can see what happens. So let's see, it's saying if object.getClass is equal to this.getClass, that evaluates the true, okay. It's creating a test object, okay, it's casting it. That seems fine. And now it's throwing a null pointer exception when it runs the .equals method. Let's try to see why. We'll go forward one more time and we hit our null pointer exception and it crashes. So if we run this again, we can be sure that the null pointer exception is going to happen here. So we go next, next. Now let's see the properties of these two objects, input object and test. So here I can hover over test and I can click plus on it and we can see the name is null. Everything else seems to be fine. It looks like it has a lot of different fields, which we can just go through. I understand you guys don't know the details of this assignment, but you don't actually need to know the details to be able to debug. You just have to be able to kind of see, as an isolated issue, what is going wrong with this test. So here it's saying that name is null, and let's see what, let's see, this dot reservation name. What is this dot reservation name? Let's see, we can go into here and we can say under this, reservation name is also null. So it's checking if null dot equals null. Now null is null, so you might think that might return true. But remember, dot equals is a method, and you can't call a method on something that is null. So that's one of our null pointer exceptions. We can tell right from this that there's probably a problem in the fact that our reservation name, get reservation name of test, is returning null. So maybe we should figure out why. How are we getting this reservation name? Well, we're calling a method get reservation name, and it's right here. So let's put a breakpoint on this method and see what it does. Going through, it enters this method, and then it's returning input.reservationName, which is in itself a method. It looks like it's a pretty unnecessary method. Oh well, let's go see what it does. This method here is returning null. That could be a problem. So we can click go to, declaration or usages, and that takes us to where that method is, where it came from. Now if we put breakpoints on this, we can actually watch it run and cascade through all these methods. So then it goes into here, and it's saying return this.name, but name is null. So I wonder, why could name be null? Now we can look through this code here and see that, well, name is null. The field is in fact null, so it was never instantiated. So we might have a broken constructor. But before I diagnose that, I know it's an obvious diagnosis, but it's a simple example. I want to be able to see maybe somewhere else that could also give me a hint. So I'll go into this flight reservation.equals, and I'll see. So here it's also comparing this reservation to another reservation by its name. If I put breakpoints around it, I can watch this execute as well. It's going into here, that's returning null, and that's causing a null pointer exception. Now here it's saying, okay, this is the right class. It's calling the dot equals method of this thing. It's saying that this object is now being cast to a flight reservation, okay. And now it's comparing if this name equals the name of the other one. Well, does it? Let's check our variables in the debugger once again. The test is a flight reservation which has the name of null. Okay, that's a problem. And this .reservation name is also null. That's a problem. Okay, so we're seeing a pattern here, and we can be pretty sure that all of these errors are actually being caused by the lack of a name being set. Now, if we examine our class here, we can see that in fact this name is never set. And to be really sure of it, to be rigorous, so that if you have a complicated method and you want to check, what you can do here is you can show, or you can go to implementations. No implementations found. What that means is that it's never used anywhere. This variable is dummy. It's never being set. So now if we go back into our assignment PDF and we compare it to what we need, to what we have, we can see that this one should be setting the input name, like the name should be set based on the input name. So if I uncomment this line, our code should work. If I rerun it without the debugger, remember, not running without the debugger will ignore all of the breakpoints you've set. It gets 100. and it works pretty well. It's a more effective method of debugging than toString because we can kind of interactively watch all our variables. And now we can get rid of our breakpoints, and we should be satisfied with it working correctly. So hopefully this short example and maybe a compelling demonstration of the breakpoint debugger and IntelliJ idea will help you guys out. I encourage you to use this in your assignments. Literally anytime you have a null pointer exception or anything of the sort, or your program isn't working the way you expect, just put breakpoints all over that thing and watch it run. Almost every single time. It's all you need to do, because you'll see that somewhere along the lines, the logic falls apart. If you get like one of these things mixed up with like one of these things, or like one of these things, or whatever, you'll still not easily be able to tell. But if you run with the breakpoint debugger, you will be easily able to tell, because you'll see that a comparison is not the same as what you imagined that it should be. Or you can see that with a null pointer exception, exactly which variable was null, and then you could follow it back using the goto function in IntelliJ to go through and see where exactly it came from to cause this problem. It's a really, really powerful tool, and I encourage everybody to use it. Thank you, and enjoy. Good luck on your next assignment. We'll rerun this with just a regular run, no debugger. If we have breakpoints, it doesn't have to stop there. We can just run it like this. So now it's sorting by which color is the most red to the least red.